And alternatively, if you're watching us through the actual Facebook Live or alternatively YouTube Live, we have got a treat for you today. Now, please do tune in. It's salamradio.co.uk if you would like to watch, listen, download the app, which is very, very important for us all. You can actually download the application, which is called Salaam Radio on iOS, which is for Apple, and also on Android Play. So, just a question to yourself. We are on an hour early, and I'm sure you've worked out that usually we're between 7 and 8 o'clock in the evening during the evenings of Tuesday. But the Salaam Radio team and myself, bringing you the Empower Hour show, have actually decided through the respect factor of month of Ramadan in specifically, that we have moved our show to 1 hour earlier between 6 and 7. So if you're listening to me live, it's between 6 o'clock and 7 o'clock for the next 4 weeks until June. So please remember, tune in on Tuesdays between 6 and 7 p.m. only for the month of May. This evening, I am not joking, I have had the pleasure and the good fortune of spending the last half an hour to an hour with an amazing individuals who really has achieved so much, coming from the background of not even being from the UK, but obviously has fitted right in. Her name is Reena Dayal in specific. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of an introduction to her, and you'll be very surprised when you see her lovely smile. She's in the video if you're watching on Facebook Live, and later on if you're watching it on YouTube Live as well. This young lady, wow. When I'm telling you that she has been headhunted by all of the blue chips in the past, she's worked for Aviva, she's worked for Google, the giant Google, she's worked for UN, assisting them on this, on structures. She's worked with the World Business Forum. She's assisted. I don't think I can do it justice. What an amazingly achieved young lady. She has now focused her heart in changing the lives of others, actually spending her time, actually focusing, enlightening, and engaging through HR experience of 26 years, working in 26 different countries. And that's not due to the fact that she couldn't settle down. It's the constant pull of such excellence. Her team was taken from country to country to create the change. Today, she's basically the Central London IOD Committee Chairman. She assists ladies to get into business, into their mindset. She's a constant mentor currently, and a very, very well what we call admired, but also in demand mentor for Aspire. Now Aspire, also Sherry Blair Foundation. She's assisted such an immense amount of individuals in this country. Now, with honest understanding, her forte is in the background of being a HR professional. She has led in leadership around the globe. When I'm talking about holding high-level blue-chip director roles, she's assisted in creating a worldwide platform that is called thecollaborators.org. If you want to get involved, please don't forget that. I think I've done enough. I mean, the reality is that she today is assisting so many individuals at a very high level, assisting them to move from what we classify as a career transition, people who've maybe had a country transition, a parallel industry transition, or the individuals who are stuck with what we call a glass ceiling mentality, where they can't move themselves one stage further up the ladder to director position, or alternatively from director to chairman position. She works one-to-one with these individuals. Let me tell you, she's under such a great demand. She restricts her time to a maximum of 8 people that she works with at a time, and most of her programs last around about a year to 12 months. What a beautiful mouthful, and I want to humbly invite and welcome Reena Dayal.
Hi, it's absolutely fantastic to be here, and that was an amazing introduction. I need you there always to do the opening act for me. Hello to everyone, the audience. It's my pleasure to be here and to be part of this conversation, and I'm looking forward to a really great chat.
Oh my goodness, it's going to be an amazing chat for everybody. Thank you very much for being here, Reena. So, you know how it works here on the Empower Hour. The philosophy of the Empower Hour is to get high esteemed individuals who have actually achieved, like yourself and like most of our other previous one. In fact, every one of our industry leading individuals who have been our guests here on the Empower Hour show with myself, Sukhi Wahiwala. And really delve deep into their background and see how what is the success formula that's been coming out of them, and how is it that they have become as successful as they are, and I think integrous and honest as well. So I'm not going to disappoint all of our current listeners, and thank you very much for all your support. Please do give us a message from Facebook Live or jump into WhatsApp. Don't forget to communicate if you have any questions for Reena. The contact number for our WhatsApp is 07745 278 978, and if you would like to call in if you've got any questions for her, that's also available onto our studio line, which is 01733 602 133. So Reena, I just want to sort of touch base, and first of all, thank you very much. I forgot to mention that you're an author, and would you believe, if anybody's looking at our video here, I am going to grab your book a second.
Yes.
This is actually, would you believe, a book that's not hit the market yet, team. I'm not sure if you can see this. If you're looking across, and you'll see now, the book itself is called The Brilliance
Quotient.
Wow, Quotient. What an amazing. Now you know she is some intellectual here. But this is actually the pre-book, so we'll talk a bit about this in the second half. May I just ask, Reena, you are from India.
Yes.
You have an amazing background from East India in specific.
Yes.
Could you just help us understand, where have you come from? Where have you originated from as where were you born?
So I was born in a tiny little town in East India. For people who are familiar with Calcutta, West Bengal, this is a town a few hundred kilometers away, a town called Jamshedpur. The key thing about it is it's called the home of the Tatas. Now Tatas is a company that we know is very, very prevalent in the UK, Land Rover, Jaguar.
That's right.
But they're the family that first created the first industrial town in India in 1840s. And they built up an industrial town, and my dad worked there, and that's where I was born. So it's small little town in India, and then moved on to New Delhi for my studies. So from a small town to a big town.
Wow.
And then to a bigger town called London. So it's been a journey of sorts, I would say, but a lovely one, I would say.
I would say, without a doubt. So just to hark back a little bit, a little bit about yourself. You mentioned very, very lovely, a lovely context towards your father there. Your father was actually working within an industrial city or in a town, Tata Nagar as we call it nowadays. The reality of life, these sort of individuals like your mum and your dad, they were obviously there as mentors for yourself. But here on the Empower Hour show, we tend to get very open and honest with everybody because this is about just telling people how it really is.
Absolutely.
Are you an only sibling? Are you an only child?
I've got an elder brother. And yes, it's just two of us.
Two of you, yes.
And
lovely.
My mom has really been the person who's been a role model for a really long time. My dad used to work with the Tatas, but unfortunately he passed away when I was very small.
God bless.
And I was 10 years old. So it was mom, my brother and I, so small family.
God bless you.
So I think that kind of helped out in a way because we were closely knit. But also helped us be a little bit more stronger because you learn to live without a very strong role model of a dad within the family.
Wow.
But a lot of teachers, you're right, I'm blessed. I've had great mentors while growing up. In my school, I think I'd probably say my principal was one of the people who course corrected me very early on in life. I remember when I was in the 8th standard, I was turning out to be a bit of a person who would shirk classes, and but she obviously saw something in me that I did not.
And her name and the school?
Her name is Sister Norella, and this was the Sacred Heart School in Jamshedpur.
The Sacred Heart School.
So it was a convent education.
Yes, I've heard of it quite considerably around everywhere. Yeah, sisters, that's right.
Absolutely. And then she kind of mentored me and made me shift my class from one section to another one, which is normally not done, because she wanted me to get out of the company that she thought was not very good for me.
My goodness, what a beautiful soul.
Excuse me. Absolutely. But then what a great person, because then I went on to become the school president because of that kind of mentorship. So she just guided me along the way. So sometimes I think life is about, what's taught me is to learn from some of the people around you and trust them. Even though you might not like it at that point of time.
And also, is it correct in saying that you may not like it, but there may have been some history attached to possibly what we call empowering other people with your
Yes.
own ability or with your welfare. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Because mentoring is truly an environment where one has to truly become enlightened by the person, and watching your eyes and talking specifically about the principal that you were from the Lonely Hearts School, I could clearly see that it was such a impactful period of time in your life.
Absolutely,
Yes?
it was.
So, just a question and a journey. I mean, how did you end up in the UK? Because you had such an amazing journey of life, coming from Calcutta. It's okay, please go. There's water there as well, by
Thank
the way.
you.
It's a real live show.
I know,
don't
I
forget.
know.
It's
That
there
is why,
for
excuse me.
reality. No, not at all. Well, you moved from what we call the Calcutta area, and then you went over to Delhi. I mean, how was the impact in Delhi? What was there? Was the studies, and you continued your studies, and,
Yes.
and what sort of level did you continue at?
So I did my college graduation in commerce in Delhi, and then I actually went back to Jamshedpur, because Jamshedpur, while it's a tiny industrial town, also houses the #1 business management institute for HR director, so for
Okay.
HR development, for personal management. So I got a chance to go back there, and then I came back to New Delhi and started off my career. And that was in 93. So, yeah, that was like way back.
Oh, how could that be possible? Like,
Yes.
there's no way in 1993. No, joke. I'm only joking. Absolutely.
So, 93 is when I started working in New Delhi again. And so, that's really been the town where I started off my career, I would
So
say.
the first career move you had was in New Delhi.
Absolutely.
And is it okay just to ask, maybe, because I want everybody here, I mean, our Empower Our audience, what we call the inspired tribe that tends to listen to our events and programs, they're up for the realness of an individual.
Yes.
And I've had the good fortune of speaking to you
Yes.
off radio just now, and I have nothing but an adoration for somebody who's such, not just skilled, but has an inner robustness. So for that kind of robustness and that resilience that one has to create, would it be correct that it is an equal sum of your upbringing, right?
Absolutely. And my move to the UK.
And the move to UK, okay.
I think moving from India to UK has been perhaps a big transition in my life, and a fascinating one, because it moved me out of my comfort zone. And
Wow.
sometimes we all get stuck in our comfort zone. So when I remember coming in here, I was in my 30s, and I was like, oh my gosh, where is the lovely luxury of being in India and having all the comforts of having everything looked after you, and you have to do everything on your own.
Yeah, the washing.
So I really resisted. Yeah, the washing, you don't have a driver, you have to cook, and you're like, oh, so it was difficult. And
Yes, I respect
remember the first 3 months I was literally like, why have I come here? Why did I take this decision?
What am I doing?
What am I doing over here? So all of that confusion. And then I think 3 months into being in the London, because when I came to the UK, I didn't know anyone here.
Bless
So
you.
it was a completely like virgin territory in that
Yeah,
sense of making
complete.
new connections. So it's like, should I go back or should I stay here?
Yeah.
You have all of those doubts. And then 3 months down, I remember having one of those moments when you're having chai, you're just having tea, and you're having a moment of reflection. And I thought, wait a minute. I had said that I will come from India to UK because I wanted to learn new things and
Bless
to
you.
move out of my comfort zone. And now I'm complaining about it. So I had a bit of a self-talk, and I was like, right, change gears. But it was very difficult in the beginning, I would say. But that has made me more resilient, because when you learn to move out of your comfort zone and do something different, the learning is so immense and so powerful that it makes me far more resilient, the word that you rightly said.
Thank you.
To then take on a lot of other stuff.
What a lovely message for everybody. I mean, if you're thinking on one of these days when you've been sitting at home and you're thinking, do you know what? I think my comfort zone serves me. Well, it does to an extent. But you want to basically move your own modeling of your own life and think, if I stay in the comfort zone for too long, what happens is I don't actually progress. I regress. Because we all know that if you invest your money and you're not making more than 10% on your money at least, you're actually regressing. The company is just, going backwards in its profitability. But so does that transpire into your language, into your life as well. So if in essence, if you're working and you're working within a comfort zone, there should be a little, what we call a little word that comes up, a little voice that comes up at the back of the head that says, actually, am I even living my potential? Which is what you're talking about. But there's something you did differently. You actually turned around and actually realized and focused that it's not just about potential, it's the promise I made myself. And there's where resilience and honor comes in. Do you believe, Reena, that it's very important, or how important do you think it is to make promises to yourself that really progress and stretch you?
I think and I think so. It's just not a psychological but physiological process. So this is a bit of neuroscience as well, I think. So I dabble a bit in neuroscience. Is that when it's important to know what you want to achieve in life. You don't necessarily need to be clear how you will get there, but you need to be clear about the what, because then the brain and the cosmos around you will make things happen in a way for you to reach that particular goal.
That makes sense.
So I think so, whether it's a promise to yourself, whether it's a vision, whether it's a dream, whether it's an aspiration, that's why I think so people talk about thinking big. I think so if you think big, you will get there. You just need to be clear about where you need to get to. So I'm 100% in supportive of that statement of yours that you need to have a dream. I had a dream about moving out of India after, I'd been working for about 9 years in India, and I wanted to work out of India. I had no idea where. I just said that I want to go outside and learn how to do HR in different countries.
Wow.
I came to the UK. My first job was looking at working in the global diversity practices and working with 26 countries directly.
Wow.
I mean, that was
I'm blown away
an
by
amazing experience to get. But just because I was very clear I wanted to do something, it happened. The opportunity arose. And when the opportunity arose, you just grab it and take it. It was a 6 months opportunity, which turned out to be now 12, 14 years.
Wow.
But it's a chance that one had to take.
But what a humbling journey. But the thing is, you say it in a real easy contextual way. But there are individuals out there who probably don't have that kind of what we classify as internal methodology or framework. So if somebody's listening who's having an understanding where actually, do you know, my comfort zone seems to be really hard to get out of, actually getting myself out of the mindset of not taking action or taking action, that's more of a challenge. Are there any tips that you can share with them that maybe that could assist their framework, just to give them a quick change, what we classify as a pattern interrupt or a reframe in neuroscience and neurolinguistics? But are there any tips that you could share? Because your book had a good fortune of just looking
Thank you
very
so
much.
much.
So I think it's going to be wonderful.
There are some interesting ideas, and yes, absolutely, they're more covered in the book. But I think so it all goes back on not focusing on the outside, but focusing on yourself and actually asking you the question, what is it that I dreamed about doing when I was a child, when I was growing up as a teenager? What were those dreams that I had? I think so literally start with a free-flowing thought. Did I want to become a pilot? Did I want to travel? Did I want to go and meet new people? Literally at that age when we had the first dreams of ourselves. I think so it's important to connect back to some of those first dreams. And the second tip that I would give to people is, which I think so is the number one derailer, which is creating a lot of stress for a lot of senior executives that I work with, no matter how high up they are. But for them to really unlock their potential is to be clear about what their values are.
Wow.
What is it that they value most? Not what society taught them, not what their authority figures or the organization's values are, but what are their core values? And then to see, what is it that I can do, or what am I doing or not doing that's serving my values? I think so even these two questions, if people were to ask and just give them freedom to think at a blank page of saying, no one's stopping me, I'm going to think about what I thought as a teenager or what my values are and how do I live them, they'll come up with some pretty powerful answers, and I'd encourage them to then explore that further.
Do you know, that's such an amazing methodology or a process that one can share. And it really does. It just unlocks the potential. I love it because I'm a very, very strong advocate of just exactly what you're trying to say with reference to reflection and journaling and actually getting things clear. We're calling it getting the bag clear, emptying the bag. But in principle, what you're trying to tell me is have dreams, have aspirations that stretch you, that put you into what we call sometimes an unknown outcome, but also make yourself that inner promise, because the only person who's going to actually truly make the change is yourself, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
So in your honest life, I mean, in the journey that you've gone through, you've taken a transition from my memory of coming in from India in specific after 9 years at a professional corporate level. You've moved over obviously to UK. You're in the first 6 months period where you're thinking, what am I doing here? Life's completely not how you wanted it to be. You've realized that over here there isn't that sort of what we call servant culture. There isn't that assistant culture. So what were you thinking in those moments? Were they dark times? Were they hard to get over? And what was going through your mind at the time? The challenge, and I know you went through the fact that you promised yourself and realized that over a cup of tea, or a chai, as we call it, what we call it, a chai moment. But what did you do thereafter? How did you grapple with your traction? How did you get back on your feet?
I think so. There's this phrase that's coming to my mind about you jump into the water and start swimming. I don't know, that phrase is coming in my mouth. I think so. What really I started doing was connecting with people. Because I said, if I need to get familiar in a new country, I need to listen and learn about the environment I'm in. So I tapped into just meeting with people. That I remember was the first thing I did after that chai moment, as you correctly said.
Thank you.
And I think so that itself started giving me cues on how I could become more comfortable, how could I connect, what is it that people were liking or not liking about my Indian style of operation, because you need to learn. And because I was working on the topic of diversity, it was an important learning for me. And also for me to start understanding why I can or how I can stand out. I think so sometimes people try to fit in, but the trick is to stand out in the crowd, isn't it? We are always trying to fit in. So I think so you start learning about, that's what I do differently. And actually that could become my USP.
Mm-hmm. So USP, just for everybody who's not aware of that, that's basically a unique selling proposition. So we'll talk about a unique selling proposition, or sometimes a unique selling point. It doesn't make a difference whichever way we think about it. It is how we actually are seen by the outside world.
And in fact, that is one of the tools that I use, and it's there in my book as well as the Strengths Finder, is really to figure out what you're naturally good at and play to your strengths. We're often trying to learn things that we're not good at. But I think so sometimes it's good to flip the coin and say, I'm good at certain things, but can I play them with mastery? And start creating a brand for myself and start standing out in the crowd. So I think so some of those things help. So for me, for example, one of the things that I felt that I could do quite well was ask questions and get into conversations with people. So I used that extensively in meetings when I was running meetings with people across 26 countries. It helped me in my job.
So but the diversity of all the cultures.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love it.
And so, you use what you have in your job to kind of stand out in the crowd. So it was a slow process. I don't want me to think that it kind of happened overnight, because I think so sometimes when you come from a new country and you stand out, you get a lot of pushback. You get a resistance as well. And therefore it can be difficult because you feel isolated, you feel like no one's supporting me, or this culture doesn't accept me, and there can be a bit of bullying and harassment that can take place as well in some large organizations. So I would have experienced that, but then you need to believe in yourself and your values, what your strengths are, be clear about where you want to get to, and that helps you.
So is it true to say that, let's say for example, where anybody who's listening today, somebody of the Inspired Tribe, or people who are working from their environment, where they're very comfortable staying in a corporate job and they just want to excel one stage further, how could they, stretch themselves? So you're saying basically they could stretch themselves by constantly challenging themselves, but if that faces them where they look different, they'll obviously attract, I'm talking look meaning they stand out, not necessarily by physical ways, but by creating the USP. They will obviously face some form of tension or aggression from other colleagues. So we could classify that as harassment, but we could also classify that as bullying, right? So in that bullying environment, is it fair to say that if somebody's listening having a problem, and you're definitely the person to go to, is look at the accolades that you have behind yourself, and also this lovely book that I'm looking forward to reading when it comes out next month. I think I believe it's on a prepay at the moment, but we'll talk about it in the second half. Is it fair to say that they can reach out a little bit to yourself, maybe?
Definitely,
Could you assist individuals,
Definitely. That's been really what I've been doing for the last 26 years, to working with people who are in senior executive positions who might be wanting to say, and you use a very nice word, of break the glass ceiling. And I think so what's happening is, if you think about it, I started my career 20 years ago. At that point of time, if you became a senior director of a CEO, that was enough. But nowadays people are really ambitious and the opportunities are huge. So you could have a portfolio career. You could be a senior executive. A lot of my clients are saying they want to have portfolio careers and be board members in not just their organization but other organizations. So
that's quite a jump. That's an amazing jump. So if anyone didn't hear that, again, I'm just going to clarify. Going through an employment trajectory, but then to actually turn around and have a focus and an end result on becoming a future executive or a board member, to take a portfolio of backgrounds. Is that correct?
Yes,
So
absolutely.
did I get that correct?
You got that absolutely correct. And to answer the question that you asked, which is a very subtle question, very important one, is how do you get there, especially when you have resistance and you don't want to stand out in the crowd, is that, and I know we'll talk a little bit more about it, but it's all about being sure who you are as an individual and creating a winning mindset. You get that in place, you can take on anything.
Yeah. Now, I don't know whether you've been listening to what I'm listening to with Reena Dayal. It's amazing. You know, when a person's actually been through this adversity, so if you're a part of the Empower Hour show, you know that I always bring individuals to Peterborough, to our small hometown, a little old Peterborough, but I bring some very high flying individuals which are just absolutely full of aspiration when you meet them and deal with them. Now, Reena is not letting us short at all. So if you're ever finding yourself in a position where you have these challenges in life and you're maybe being bullied in the workplace, but also you feel that you've hit a glass ceiling for your actual career, please do not waste your time. Do get in touch with us. Speak to us with Empower Hour. Text us on 07745 2782 978. See you in a minute.
You're listening to Salaam Radio, and it's now time for Asr Azan. This Azan is sponsored by UK Islamic Mission, serving humanity since 1962.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدًا رسول حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم وبارك على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما باركت على إبراهيم وعلى آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد اللهم رب هذه الدعوة التامة والصلاة القائمة آت محمدا الوسيلة والفضيلة وابعثه مقاما محمودا الذي وعدته اللهم آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار اللهم بك نحيا وبك نموت وإليك المصير رضينا بالله ربا وبالإسلام دينا وبمحمد صلى الله عليه
This Azan is sponsored by Al Care Foundation. Donate your Sadaqah and Zakat this Ramadan at alcare.org or call us now on 03000 999 786.
This is Salaam Radio, Peterborough's Muslim Community Radio, broadcasting on 106.2 FM and online.
Welcome back, everybody. This is Salaam Radio, as you just heard, and this is Sukhi Wahiwala, the host of the really ever so popular The Empower Hour show every Tuesday. And as you know, for the month of Ramzan and Ramadan, we are actually specifically an hour earlier, between 6 and 7, so thank you very much for your support and tuning in earlier. But in June, we'll be back to our 7 to 8 o'clock slot. So we have had the most amazing conversation so far that just seems to disappear. This 26 minutes, half an hour disappears without any trace. We've had an individual who's come from the background of a very humble Indian background, lovely family, has felt the pain of or the loss of a father figure in her early days, which obviously was not in that context was fulfilled by her mum, with being such a warm, powerful lady that she was looking up to as well. But also being in a convent school, who actually turned around and drew her best from her. Because at that particular time, if we didn't have that particular principle for Reena Dayal, if you haven't been tuning in, Reena Dayal, who's if she didn't find the right principal who cared enough to move her from a different school, different room to another one, we probably wouldn't have the excellence we have today. And so in context, it's all about the people who touch your life. That's what we're talking about today. So she's an individual, a high flyer who has assisted internationally on 26 different continents and countries, countries, over 26 years. And if you look at her, you think, no, you're lying, but there we are. She came to the UK in 1993, and she's been here ever since, decided to go back and come back forth, but she's, thankfully for ourselves, she's stuck it out and stayed here in the UK. So I really want to reintroduce Reena back to the audience.
Hello, it's lovely to be back here, and welcome to everybody else.
Oh, it's been a pleasure. And I'm telling you the honest truth. I mean, I think everybody's getting a lot from this, from an individual who could be slightly disconcerted by their own journey in life, in their career, actually having maybe a form of harassment. And this is not the legal harassment process. This is about how an individual can take self-control of the harassment, self-responsibility, and see if they can move themselves into a language patterning that helps other people unlock themselves. Now, we've had a beautiful conversation so far, and we've been talking about how individuals can unlock themselves. I have a very close affection towards this process as well, of igniting and unlocking human souls. So it's an amazing feeling of having a kindred spirit in the room today with myself, Reena. How important a dream and a promise could be, where you could have easily have gone back into your comfort zone and shot back into India and been back into a very humbling life again. Even the challenges of the transition from India to the UK and the rest of the world, but having a social constructual change as well, where there's no infrastructure for assistance with and being maids, etc. And I think all these things are lightly overlooked, but when this gets pushed out to Americas, Africas and stuff, this is going to be very powerful. So a thought that I've got in my brain, Reena, you're not the only person who's making a transition into a new career, but more importantly into another country as well. What tips do you have for an individual who's making that transition? Because I know you're the go-to person when it comes to transitions in the workplace, how that person can unlock their potential and go past and smash through this glass ceiling. But specifically in your book, if I can just ask you to repeat the title again and where somebody could get hold of it from.
The Brilliance Quotient is the name of the book, and it can be right now, it's available at a special pre-launch price of £10, and it can be available on my website where people can book, but it will be available on Amazon at the end of the month, and the website is thecollaborators.org.
So thecollaborators.org.
Yes.
So if somebody goes on there, they can find your information of how to contact with you, but more importantly, read the book and
Absolutely.
communicate.
There's going to be a tab called the book launch, and you tap on it, and there's a little bit of a write-up. And if that excites you, just press the buy now button, and we'll get it delivered to your residence or the address that you give us.
Well, Reena, to be honest with yourself, the sheer fact that they'll be listening to this interview and the sheer fact that they'll follow through, which I find very humbling, is that they're really interested. I think the question of if it's valuable to them is not the question. The question is, are they able to take that action to change their own lives as well.
That's
Because they aren't alone. You know, the individuals who are taking transition, we're in Peterborough, so we have a very strong holding of Tata Corporation. And, you know, you've come from the original Tata Nagar as well. So,
But you're very right, actually, Sukhi. In fact, one of the first things I would tell people who are going through a transition, because that's available now, it wasn't available in earlier days, is to see whether you can find somebody who you can work with. And whether it's a mentor, a coach, a trainer, ideally somebody, and I'm not trying to for a second say do a sales pitch here, though I'd love to work with people, but really try to find somebody who can help you offer some powerful techniques and test them out. So check out what are the techniques that they use, but there are certain techniques that can help you accelerate. These are tried and tested techniques. So
Yes.
and we talked about few of the concepts of dreaming and, you know, playing to the strengths and getting clear about your values, some of those elements, because when you're trying to transition your career, whether it is upwards towards a portfolio career of board memberships, or whether it is, you know, leaving your corporate life and starting off your business like I did, it's a second jump that you're making in your career, because most of us might have started off a career and the choices we might have made earlier on would have been for different reasons, but the choices you want to make now are for a completely different reason. This is literally the second phase of your life, so as to speak.
It's like a
So you want to
rebirth, right?
make really powerful choices, and you want to make conscious choices, and hence it really helps to work with an individual who can help you through the ropes. But clearly I think so, being able to be clear about what yours, and I'm going to repeat them because it's really important, and I think so it's a very simple mantra: be clear about your dreams and aspirations, align to your values, play to your strengths, and be clear about what your thinking patterns are, because we all have blind spots.
yes. Now that's a really, really powerful point there, because usually what happens is people either overlook their blind spots,
Yes.
or they start to trying to focus totally on fixing those blind spots and actually forget where their strong spots are. Is that right?
That's
so
true.
have you worked with individuals who have come to you with, of course we can't mention names and structures, of course we're not interested in that, but can you assist our audience, our inspired tribe, to listen to and see whether they actually could assist themselves? What sort of questions would they be asking themselves? How could they identify their blind spots? And I'm aware that you've drawn some details out to try and assist the audience here. I mean, I can call upon, how would a person who's listening today actually move themselves beyond their blockage right now?
So let me give you a couple of examples of people that I've worked with which might be helpful. So I'm thinking about one of my clients who actually is from an Asian background, been born and brought up over here, was holding in a technology company, very good engineer and working really well, but wanted to aspire and become a board member. Never done it in his life before, and he just felt, well, everybody's talking about it, so let me think, how do I become a board member? And then went for the first interview. He got called for a board interview and was rejected, and he didn't know why. So he came to me and said, you know what, I've been such a senior director, I've got this amazing career behind me, why am I getting rejected to be a board member? Why is it that I'm not getting a chance to become like this, you know, the COO of the company when I'm doing all the job? Why am I getting rejected? So people don't realize why they're being rejected.
It's very
because
powerful.
they've been quite successful. And then, of course, we worked with him to really try to understand some of his blind spots. Because what happens sometimes is that if you're not aware, your strengths might become your weakness.
Wow, what a keen
So
point.
therefore, I think so. One of the things that we do when we work is to make them aware about what their strengths are, but to make sure that they're not overplaying it. And in this case, one of his strengths was the ability to give ideas, new ideas, ideation, and to be able to organize things.
Wow.
But he tended to do that too much. And because he was doing it too much, it was becoming something that was working against him, and his
Abrasive.
team members were resisting.
Yeah, so an
And
abrasion.
also about the way that you tell your story. So the second thing that we realized for him was to overcome those strengths that had become weaknesses. But the second was, what is your story and why should somebody make you a board member? We all know what the story is, but sometimes we might not be articulating in the right way.
Aha.
So the narrative that you need to share with people, because we all have experience, but we sometimes are little, we're very straightforward and we just say it in our own way. which is good. You need to be authentic, but you need to give the narrative in a way that a person will say, we need this person as a board member.
So are you saying that it's a structured conversation?
Yes, absolutely. So thank you so much. There is a structure on how you express what your talents are, why you would bring certain value to that job as a board member in this particular case. Why is it that you want to do it? Because it aligns to your aspiration, your vision, your personal vision. That's what people look for. And when they see that you have a vision and you're working towards it, they want you to be part of the organization, because they know that you're going to help them meet their vision.
I like it. So that's so succinctly put through. So what tips could we actually give individuals who are listening and thinking, how can they progress themselves in this small 1 hour? What could they've had so much content from you already. It's just an absolute mind-blowing amount of information that's going through, because if anybody is listening here and they actually went through your key questions, they would definitely already be in a different place straight away. So just on a final context, I mean, in the book itself, this is your forthcoming book, which is coming on the collaborators.org. How in specific do you think this book is going to help individuals?
Okay, so there are a few ways. Who is the book for? Let me just kind of articulate that first, right? This is meant for a lot of people who have reached that position in life where they have done a lot, they've worked a lot, they're really good in their work, and they're asking questions like, what's next? What do I want to do in the next phase of my life? Or they might be saying, I really want to become from a senior director to somebody who's going to create a legacy organization. I want to create something which is going to impact the community at large, but how do I do it? What's my first step? How do I transition from becoming a corporate executive into a business leader who's running a business? How do I do that? Or they might be asking questions about, I became a functional leader. It might be technology leader, finance leader, and HR leader. And I grew very fast, but now I'm stuck. I'm not going any further. Why is it? What is this glass ceiling? And I'm doing everything. I'm going for all the leadership development programs. I'm still not going. No one's paying attention to me. So they are stuck at that position. And this book is what I call the Brilliance Quotient, which is all about, it's a step ahead. If you remember, in the 80s and 90s, there was something known as the intelligent quotient that came out, which was very powerful. Then the emotional quotient. This is actually breaking the barriers of saying, you can be very powerful if you just look at yourself.
You can be
brilliant. And you can be brilliant. But and it's a benchmark that you can create or break. You don't have to compare it against anybody else. But for that, there are certain levers that you need to push and pull. And the book lays down 9 levers. There are 9 things that I'm saying, if you focus your attention on, then you will have got maximum out to being able to achieve your vision and purpose in life. And it's what I call in the business world, I call it, I'm from a business background, it's the 20-80 rule. It's the 20% that gets you 80% results. This is my offering to the people of saying, if you get these 9 levers right, then you will become a master, and you will become somebody who can master the science and art of leadership, because I think so leadership is a science and an art.
From inside and out, yes?
Absolutely, from inside and out.
If I could just take this conversation, this is so powerful, so relevant. Can you explain, because you've had a lot of experience of working in individuals, and also you've had a lot of experience in leading corporate organizations. My question to yourself is in a deep way, have you found something similar to what we've found, or what I've personally found with all my own corporate colleagues and our own companies and managers and seniors, where there seems to be this awareness of an esoteric understanding of energy, of focus, of a higher self, or a new order, or something that's outside within yourself. Whether we call it on this radio station, we're very open to share this. It's the version of God, but it could also be quantum physics, where you're thinking the collective consciousness. It could also be on the context of it being something like what we classify as a connection to something greater than oneself. Have you seen a rise in this sort of way of thinking, and if so, how does it actually assist and really create that presence about a human being, that grounding in them? Because I genuinely believe it does, and it's just wonderful to hear your version of this as well.
I love it. I loved it that you've touched upon this topic. So yes, I believe in it tremendously, and I think so there is an awakening, because for a moment, let's just reflect what's happening around. Of course, there's lots of disruption, there's lots of unpredictability that's taking place, but we also see that there is yoga and meditation that is suddenly becoming very popular around the world, right? So there are people who are now wanting to know a little bit more about creating purpose-driven organizations, for example. It was
Yes.
never the case early on. You have the millenniums who are coming in and saying, we want to join an organization which has a vision and purpose.
Wow.
That wasn't necessarily the case earlier on. So there is an uprising that's taking place also on these topics. And it should be, because if I was to tap into the ancient wisdom of India, if I was to talk about Ayurveda, for example, and I touch upon that in the book as well, that's what it talked about. It talked about the higher self. It talked about the spiritual angle. And I make spiritual slightly different, in my case, from religion, but about the higher self. And for some people, it is from religion, and that's great. But I think so to be able to work on all the 4 quadrants of an individual, which is physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual.
Wow.
I think so when these 4 align, and when you're working on optimum capacity on all of these 4 elements, that's when you're living a life of purpose.
Perfect. So,
And I
as
think
someone
so that's
listening,
the journey that I would like to help people on.
so if somebody's no,
Sukhi.
no, not at all. My apologies for interrupting. But the 4 elements again. Could you go through them once again,
Yes.
just so that the audience can actually understand and encapsulate
So it's
themselves?
physical.
And
It's
that means
literally
what?
the physical body. So
the exercise.
absolutely, it could
yeah?
mean exercise. It could mean the food that you eat. So one of the levers in my book talks about a aspect about physical is the 20-80 rule, because you know how it is in today's life. You can't do everything. You can't have a great diet and exercise and eat the right food and plus sleep well. So there are various facets to it, but there's certain key levers within the physical realm that can help you move at optimum capacity and have the right physical stamina.
Yes.
That's what because remember we're talking about
Mental,
resilience.
yes,
So that's
resilience.
physical. Mental is what I call mental agility. The ability of the mind to flex and change and not think about limiting beliefs and to overcome blind spots and to be agile and adapt and flex and think about new ideas and new ways to solve problems. That's mental agility. Emotional ability is the ability to actually interact with individuals. We are losing that sometimes, isn't it? In the world of technology, maybe at times. We're texting often, but
That's right.
But to connect with individuals, the key thing that makes a human being stand out from any other species is our ability to emote. And therefore, we really need to know how to understand our own emotions, because sometimes we don't recognize our own emotions. We don't give that space and that of the other people, so that you can actually let a person be vulnerable and be vulnerable yourself and yet find strength in it.
That's so powerful. I was just about to say, what about the vulnerability? You mentioned it 100% to the key. Wow. So a person could actually be vulnerable with another person and it would still become a positive?
And 100%, and that's one of the key things that we work with individuals, with clients, is how can you be vulnerable and authentic and allow other people to do that, and you actually become a far more powerful leader.
Wow.
Because this is not the leaders of the past, this is visionaries who are going to make a difference to the world. And of course the last quadrant is spiritual, which is all about your connection with a higher purpose, and that could be different for every individual, and so be it. But what is that connection with the higher purpose? It's one life. What is it we are here to achieve? What's the vision in life? And what are you doing to make it happen? Because that's when you're going to be truly happy.
I love it.
So I think so all of those 4 quadrants, and all of them have got techniques sitting behind it. So it's not just fluffy stuff in that
Yeah.
sense, if you know.
I'm
There's
so
a real
glad.
science, there's real structure in helping a person. And when you do that, you automatically will find, and the word that I use in my book is, you actually become an effortless leader. Then leadership is no longer a job. You're just, it's, you know, it's the phrase about you become the flow.
Yeah.
You know, you be the flow.
Yeah,
So
that's
you're
right.
not in
so
the
you
flow.
end up just becoming the flow, being the flow, but also just being yourself. The words I am. This is so warming to understand that the industry that you are leading is becoming such evolved due to the bit of brilliance that you're bringing into the marketplace. Actually allowing people to be vulnerable, allowing them to be more than vulnerable, actually be completely humble and honest with each other. There's no doubt that there's a technical ability that you deliver to the marketplace, but now with that resonance of understanding of the spiritual awareness, because spiritual awareness means every religious order has 2 facets to it. We have one which is the external identity, as we call it, and the parameters and structure, but there's also that inner connection with the spirituality. For all our Muslim brothers and sisters who are listening tonight, the whole essence of returning yourself to bare basics through the month of Ramadan is to actually turn around and be aware inwards instead of just being outwards aware as well. This is so beautiful. Do you agree, Reena, in a simple philosophy that when and only when an individual starts to realize other people's similarities in themselves, it's only that particular point that they become the true leader they were born to be?
Become a true leader
that they were born to be.
True.
Actually, by seeing similarities and not differences.
True. You know what? The job that actually got me from India to UK was to lead the global diversity strategy across 26 countries. I was implementing it.
Wow.
And the learning was immense, absolutely. I just loved it. But one of the biggest things I learned driving diversity in 26 countries is not how different people are, but how similar we are. And I think so you're absolutely right. It is being understanding that actually we are all human beings and we've got similarities, and then to be able to lend support with each other and collaborate effectively. That is the name of the game, I think so. If to find somebody who's a kindred soul, I think so that's the beauty of life, and I think so that's the beauty of business as well.
And there's such a beautiful lead into thecollaborators.org.
Oh.
Can you help us understand that this has been such a beautiful journey, but once again, we're running such short on time. Can you believe this?
Really? Okay.
Yeah, we've only got the last 3 to 4 minutes.
Okay.
So if anybody's listening, please do not feel taken back by communicating and connecting with us directly. You know the drill. You know who we are. We're here at the Salaam Radio office here in Peterborough, and please do not forget to connect and communicate. But do reach out and connect with thecollaborators.org. Can we talk a little bit about the collaborators? Because I know you work with individuals on an executive basis. What does that look like?
Okay, so I now work with individuals on a one-to-one basis, and we have sessions. Typically, their sessions, I suggest that there should be between 9 to 12 sessions, which runs over 9 to 12 months with individuals, and it goes through a series of exploration, building awareness, coming up with goals and action plans, and making real progress and accelerating in their journey. And people will find the difference in the first 2 or 3 sessions itself. They'll find huge changes in themselves because each one is just brilliant and inspiration. I mean, I've written a book, and when people make the statement about who is it dedicated to, I've written down my book is dedicated to my clients because they inspire me. Honestly, they do. I've learned so much from them, and that's my vision, is to be able to work with people and help them unlock their potential and be more comfortable with who they are and become authentic leaders so that we can have more purposeful organizations. That's my vision and dream. So working with people one-to-one, that's the way that I work with individuals. I also train teams and help them become far more aligned so that they can learn from each other and become far more productive as teams as well. All of this is very easily possible if people were to go to my website. It's thecollaborators.org. So collaboration is the name of the game, and that's why I call my company that. I think the client and I always collaborate with each other.
That's a beautifully humble statement.
Well, thank you so much for saying that, Sukhi.
Some people, they talk at people. It's the reality of life. When an individual genuinely has such a warming atmosphere, and I'm not sure, you guys can't see this on radio, or you can, possibly see it when we're looking across on our YouTube and our Facebook channels, but it really is a lovely, I've been sitting here quietly in awe, just understanding all this lovely framework that she's been delivering, but with such humility. So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. So thecollaborators.org, and if you click on it, you will find information. My phone number is on it, so if you really need to get in touch with me, drop me a text, or you have my email address, which is the best way to connect with me. It's Reena at thecollaborators.org.
So Reena as in REENA
at thecollaborators.org.
So collaborators with an S, yes?
Yes, please.
Collaborators, right, .org. Wow, and wonderful. So this has not been planned, so I'm going to ask you some really, really cool questions, if you don't mind.
Yeah, go for
putting
it.
On the spot. So in a year's time, because you're a strong believer, you're a strong believer of dreaming and visioning and stuff. So if I was to ask you to visualize a year ahead, where would you be and what would you be doing? Because this is so important. It's a new section that I brought into our interviews where we can ask, well, what are you going to be doing in a year's time? Let's help you position that.
Thank you so much. So 1 year from now, I have in the last 1 year worked with 18 clients.
Wow.
In another year's time, because it's just, as you correctly said, I mentioned don't work with more than 8 clients at a time. In another year's time, I would have liked to impact the lives of at least 25 more clients on a one-to-one basis. But through my book, I would like to have hit out and kind of at least touch the lives of more than 2,000 people.
Wow.
So I definitely would have liked 2,000 people to have benefited from just reading my book and getting some ideas to accelerate their journey, and to work with about 25 clients, and to be able to work with at least 30 new companies.
Now that's a challenge, that's a stretch that we're all going to help her get over, right?
Yes,
so the Inspired
please.
Tribe, please reach out and connect. Reena has actually connected with myself, and that's just going to be very, very evident within the inspiredbusiness.club organizational stuff. If you'd like to meet her, I think she'll probably be at the next Inspired Dinner Club, which will be the third week of of May, and it's going to be in London, so we'll be there as a social evening. So just before we cut off today, I would like to thank you very much, Reena. Thank you very much for being here on Live with ourselves today. And I'm not sure if you've been as inspired as I am, and probably more, because the information that has been shared by Reena has been truly a gift. So please remember, Sukhi Wahiwala, the Empower Hour show. See you next week at the new time of 6 till 7.
Thank you.